Itong bagong talaga, newly appointed Secretary of the Department of Transportation, si Vince Deakin, announced na, teka muna, suspindihin muna natin yung implementation na supposed to be March 15, na mahigpit nang ipatutupad itong cashless toll collection dyan sa mga expressway po natin. And we were reading up on your post. And you have an interesting recommendation na instead of itong ako, sabi ko nga kay Patpi, and I keep complaining on the program, biktima ako niyan nung RFID ko na ilang beses na ako nagpapalit nung sticker at hindi talaga binabasa. So every time I pass going north, no, yung auto sweep ko going south works fine. Pero yung going up north, yung RFID ko, yung easy trip, di ba? Talagang I have to stop and wait for someone kasi kailangan mo, you have to stick your arm up. Kinakwento ko kay Patpi, yung mga nauuna sa akin, nakikita ko, kinabit na nila sa mahabang stick. At the end of their stick, they stuck their card para lang mabasa nung makina. Yung ano ba, barcode ba yung nandun? Kanya-kanya talagang diskarte. Ako talagang dikit na dikit naman, dinidikit ko talaga yung sasakyan ko lang para umabot yung arm ko doon sa ano. Or unless you have to, other than that, you have to wait for somebody to attend to you, hindi ba? Pag hindi pa rin binam. Anyway, run it by us, itong recommendation mo instead of itong RFID, James.
Grabe, tawa ako dyan because that's true what you said. Yeah, actually,
Kainis, diba?
I've done it. I've seen it happen. I've seen yung kinakabit nila sa stick. And you're right, it's ridiculous in 2025 to be still doing this. This is not new technology. I agree with all your sentiments that it is difficult. Baliktad naman sa akin eh. Sa akin, it's usually auto sweep that doesn't read and it's easy trip that reads a little bit faster. But this is not consistent with everybody. Everyone has their own story. But what I think is consistent is the inconsistency, regardless of which expressway you go. So what I was suggesting on my Facebook post was, I've met the secretary, I've worked with him before, and I was a little surprised, I think like everybody else, because I've known him to be, very, very efficient, and I was excited when I heard he was appointed. But then when that statement came out, I thought, wag naman sana i-frame na anti-poor because that's really just, it's now hijacked. The conversation's been hijacked. It's race baiting, class baiting. It's not going to serve anybody. That's number one. Take away the emotion for a little while. Take away the theater that just happened. I can understand naman to a certain degree what he's trying to do. Take away all the excitement. His problem is baka hindi pa fixed yung mga system, and then when we take away the cash lane, we're going to overwhelm it again. That's one point. I can see that. But the public's point is nakailang beses na, nakailang extension na.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we started this in November of 2020. Then we had an extension December 2020. Then we did it again in 2023. And then we did it again in 2024. And then 2025. Nakailan na. So it's a loss of confidence and trust in the public, in the motoring public. Na, are we really going to do this? What's the point of adhering naman? Because if this is what's going to happen, well, sana we didn't have to line up too. So trying to balance that, the problem of if the secretary imposes the March 15 deadline at hindi pa nakaayos yung mga lanes, we're going to have a bigger problem. So the solution for me is, why don't we develop another system to replace cash? Because what people are complaining about, like you mentioned, is the onboarding system. A lot of people work 9 to 5, which means they can't be there during business hours. It's only after hours that they can get their RFID done. And then these places are closed, they run out, and all that. Why do we need an onboarding system ba? Why do we actually have to have a physical car with the guy writing it and all of this stuff? Why can't we just get it online? They'll argue that we need to register it to the car for safety and security and data and everything. Ganon ba? Kung ganyan talaga, how are you addressing the cash system now? How do you make that work in your head? Na every time a cash person comes in, you've equated it to a certain car. No, you don't trace that cash.
Yeah.
So why do we need to trace the payment of the RFID?
Not to one,
Why
to
don't
a
you just buy
specific car. To a specific.
a
Kaya ang
specific
nangyayari
car
ngayon,
and just-
James,
Oh, exactly.
bawat
That's all I'm
sasakyan
saying.
bawat sasakyan mo, pakakabitan mo ng sticker.
Oo.
At bawat
Oo.
sasakyan mo, may hiwalay ka na pondo. Instead of
Oo.
yung, ang maganda sa rekomendasyon mo na
Yes.
card, pwede mo i-transfer
Yeah,
kung
yeah.
anong sasakyan ang gamit mo. Ito, bawat car, meron
Oo.
kang,
Kailangan
meron kang
separate.
balance.
Yeah, oo.
Exactly. Diba before, do you remember e-pass?
Oo.
That is, only the titos and titas will remember the white
Mga
e-pass.
lumang tao.
Yeah.
That's not us. We're too young for that. But anyone else watching might remember the white e-pass.
Yeah.
You could move that in your car before. Then they required you to mount it. And after that, it was like, okay, now that I consider anti-poor. If you're going to make an anti-poor argument, it's commit to one car because then they don't have the choice to move it to another car, to have to maintain a different balance for another car, to register another car, to line up for another car. Pag detecting yung sticker, kami ang taya. We're the ones who have to line up again and get another one. It always seems like the burden is placed back on the motorist. And that's why I was suggesting, why don't we just have a universal card of some sort that you can just tap so that we eliminate the cash lane congestion. That's all we're trying to do. Is we don't have time to everybody have put their change out and all that. Just have something that you can scan.
Yeah.
And put the scanner naman a little bit closer, just like you mentioned. Parang wala tayong stick.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait for a human being. That's another frustration people have. Is kailangan, you have to wait for that person, especially sa auto sweep. Sa easy trip, meron silang scanner. Sa auto sweep, wala. So you have to wait until the person, human being, comes and then gets your card and then taps it for you. That's like waiting for an attendant for a vending machine.
Correct.
Bakit naman kailangan ng attendant na vending machine? Why can't we just do it ourselves and save time? So there's so many other options we could have taken to still address the congestion at the cash lanes without also penalizing the poor and also penalizing the people who've complied.
Yeah.
So you have to balance it out because if the people who have complied are 90%, but you pander to the 10%, that's going to aggravate people. Having said that, one last point, we do have to think kasi of the people out of town. We do have to think of the people who travel the expressway once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Those people exist and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
We should give them an option. So give them an online option. Maybe it's an app. Maybe it's a QR code you put on your phone.
Yeah.
Everyone has a phone now. If you have a car, you have a phone naman. I think it's not unfair to assume that. There are many others. What I'm getting at to wrap up my point is there are many different solutions that didn't have to erode the credibility and the trust of the motorists, and they're also that's not anti-poor.
Let's get together. Sa NET25. Sa NET25.